Welcome to the Three Art Amigos with Ed Swarez, Adrian Webb, and Paula Telizyn, where we talk about running an art business, being an artist in 2026, and how to create a sustainable, successful business for individual artists. Today, we're going to talk about paying attention to the market as it is, not as we want it to be. And while that sounds a little bit obscure, we are going to get into the depths of what this means for artists who want to sell their work directly to collectors and skip the galleries, skip the gatekeepers, and skip anybody who wants to take a percentage of your income. So when it comes to talking about the art market, there are some preconceived notions as to what is selling versus what is actually selling. We were having this conversation before we started recording, as happens in most of our podcasts, is we have a good chat before we hit record. And we were talking about what we're seeing from some artists who are maybe struggling to sell a little bit is it's very obvious they don't understand what people are buying in 2026. Do you want to start expanding on that a little bit, either one of you?
One of the things is that anything you look at in life, designer wise, maybe it be China. So you want to go and buy yourself a dinner set, and you go back to 1980s, and it would have been probably 1970s. The Weird and Wonderful. I remember my mum having these plates that had cattle on, and they were the weirdest they had this orange, and they were very bright colors and everything else like that you would get. And of course that would go out of fashion, and the next thing would come in and it would be a different color, so on and so forth. But it wasn't that plate manufacturer went, well, I'm sticking to this and I'm never doing anything else ever again because that's what I want to do. It was that they went, well, people are changing and they want slightly different colors and so on and so on and so on. And it's funny because they rolled back around now, and in the Beefeaters in England, they've got these plates back up on the wall. And I remember going in there going, holy mackerel, when I was a kid, I used to eat my fish and chips off that, so it's rolled back around again. But it's that thing about, well, if they'd have stuck with those colors and that style, then they wouldn't sell, they'd go out of fashion. It just wouldn't sell. So they have to move with the times. They move their crockery along with what colors are relevant, so on and so forth.
Times change, people change, tastes change, environments change, media thrusts things upon us without even knowing. We are bombarded by a million different stimulus from the time we open our eyes to the time we close them. It's impossible to escape the influence of the outside world. No matter what remote island you live on, you're going to get something at some point. And however that's delivered to us, whatever our brains consciously or subconsciously soak up, we are at all points influenced by the world around us. And using the crockery analogy, what would have been popular in 1972 isn't popular in 2026. If you want, you can go and spend another podcast trying to find out why, but the bottom line is things are different 54 years later. They just are. So if you've been used to doing a certain kind of work maybe 10 years ago, then it's an interesting exercise, especially if you're not selling anything, to think, is my work still relevant with any potential market in 2026? Now, it may be that it's not, and that's no fault of you as a creative, and what you do might still be the greatest thing since sliced bread. But if no one responds to it because no one has the desire to own it, then it doesn't matter how great this is, you're not going to sell anything. So being aware that we are in an ever-changing world, and I know it's a theme we keep talking about on and off throughout the podcast, but it's important, especially in this hugely technological age we're in now with AI, with the pinnacle of human learning. I mean, I don't know. I can't recall in certainly the last 15, 20 years of ever having such a frenzied, almost this crucial crescendo of stuff going on that's so widespread and so acute that I just can't ever remember that us all being in that position at the same time in any moment in history. You think what's going on in medical advances, what's going on in the sciences, what's going on. We were talking about the James Webb Telescope before we recorded the podcast, and look at what that's capable of doing. Well, 20 years ago or 25, when Hubble was doing it, we didn't have that capability of being able to see that far into the universe. That's one tiny thing. It's a big thing. Oh, I think it's quite big, actually, Ed. It's about 8 stories high. Huge. But that's only just talking about a telescope looking into space. But you look at what we're able now to, with advances in Alzheimer's and tailoring cancer drugs to treat individual people with individual tumors. You look at all these amazing things that we're able to process now as human beings in whatever kind of avenue you are in, or whatever kind of work that you're in, or whatever kind of things that interest you. We are at this absolute zenith point, this pinnacle of human achievement we've never been at before. But of course, with that brings an element of change. And in some aspects, it's a lot of change. And in some ways, it's only a small one. But these shifts in human behavior, these shifts in taste, these shifts in perspective, all influence every other person's taste. So it may ultimately mean that what you're doing right now is no longer relevant in the people that you either were used to selling to or the ones that you're trying to sell to.
And this is where the access to information becomes critical, because unlike previous decades of artists, so 20 plus years prior, we can actually research what's selling very easily using the internet. We can see trends that are going on. And I want to make it very clear that I do not think artists should jump on trends, that, the very quick ones that sort of pop up, are around for 3 months and disappear. I think that if you jump on a trend, you're already too late. But you need to be aware of what is selling consistently, because it's important to understand who's spending money now. In 2026, with everything that's going on, we need to pay attention to who actually has the money to buy the art, who is spending the money on the art, who is choosing the art, and what their tastes are, in order to establish or maintain a successful business. And it sounds a little bit capitalist or stark to say you've got to paint what the people want. You can still create, and again, we say paint because we're all painters, but you could still create the art you want to create and not sell it or save it for shows or whatever. But you need to pay attention to what people are buying, what's interesting to them, and what they are willing to spend money on, because people are still buying art right now. They are still buying art. They are still looking for things, valuable things to put in their houses, in their spaces. And they are more than happy to spend the money, but you've got to find them and then speak to them. So if I walk around with my bowl of soup, I'm going to use one of my analogies. I walk around with my bowl of soup and I'm like, I need a spoon. I absolutely need a spoon because this soup is the best soup ever. Apparently, I'm hungry right now. The soup is the best soup ever. It's like singing to me. It's hot right now. And everybody comes up to me with forks. I'm not going to be buying their fork. I'm not, because it's not useful to me. It doesn't speak to what my needs are in the moment. And applying that to artists, if you need something that is bright and bold and colorful for your space to elevate your energy or whatever, you're not going to go to somebody who's doing black and white pencil drawings. You're just not, right? Paying attention to what people are looking for is really important, and what the people who are buying are spending money on. And we can find that out using the internet, and being aware that you're not selling your soul. You're just adapting to what the market is to establish yourself or maintain your business, and keep going until the market loosens up again, as it will, because everything always comes around again.
Yeah. I got
Have you got an analogy here?
no. What I've got is a really strange one. So is it wrong of me to be thinking, when you said about your analogy there with the soup and a fork, that the immediate thing I thought was, well, I'll sell Paula a spork. Is that,
That's a good one.
do you know what I mean? Am I like, because I'm thinking, well, best of both worlds there. I could sell Paula the dream of the spoon and the fork
Yeah.
with the
And that's
spork.
where an artist would come in, right? That creativity. Okay, so
Yeah.
yeah,
I like that.
you blew my analogy out of the water here with that. So yeah, an artist's job maybe will be to pay attention, because we know if you've worked with clients long enough and no shade to clients because we do love them, but most of them don't really know what they want. They know what they think they want. So you can come in with your spork and offer them something that's better than what they want so that, at the next meal when I have, I don't know, stew instead and I'll need a fork, there we go. Yeah. So but being aware, you wouldn't be able to offer a spork if you didn't know I had soup.
Yeah.
So that's the real key, and paying attention to that makes all the difference. Paying attention to what the people want or think they want and what we can offer them and finding that compromise is creativity in itself.
Yeah. I still think that it doesn't, you don't have to immediately say, well, everything I was doing has to go. What you can do though is it's a bit of diversity, isn't it? You diversify by you saying, look, well, here's some of the stuff that I did do. But this then comes down to, as we know, selling yourself, making sure your website's good, so on and so forth, by saying, well, I can do this, but I can also do this. And it's that just giving a little bit more of a choice, really, isn't it? More than anything else. Like you said, if you were to walk in and go, I've got a hot bowl of soup, and and you say, well, you've got a choice of, you can have a knife, you can have a fork, or you can have the spoon. And you go, well, great, it's the spoon I need. But if I do in the future, if I do need a fork, I'll know where to come.
I thought while you were just chatting about, I don't know if you've heard of Morgan Motor Company. They're a traditional British company, been making, I would say, cars for 70 or 80 years.
Yeah.
And they're traditional kind of early 50s looking sports cars, big headlights, that kind of thing. And to move with the times, bearing in mind they're a very traditional based car company, I know that they've been trying to introduce models into the market that still keep the essence of what a Morgan is, because it does attract a certain kind of buyer, but make it more relevant in today's marketplace with some technology and improvement in manufacturing materials, sleeker design, etc., etc. You can still buy an original Morgan with an ash. I think it was ash, wasn't it? They build the chassis frames in ash.
Yes, it was, wasn't it? Yeah.
But you can also, alongside of that, still have the silhouette and all the key things that make a Morgan car, but have it up to date, an up to date engine, sleeker aerodynamics, and more important things. But you still keep what makes Morgan so special. And it occurred to me while you guys were chatting that that's probably another fundamental characteristic that as creative people we should keep hold of very tightly, because we have a unique core, a unique identity that makes us who we are. And that's untouchable by any other human being. We are solely and uniquely an expressive individual that does this. However, this, whatever the core of it is, can be, and as you said the right word, mate, which is D, which is diversify, can I now make that into something that may be more relevant to a different part of the market, especially if the one I normally attract isn't spending any money or is spending less than I want it to. So we can take maybe the Morgan example. I can still keep what is traditionally that, but modify it. I think you also said that as well. Modify it or morph it into something that feels more up to date, more relevant. And even if up to date is the wrong choice of words, and I apologize for that, but it is something different where it appeals to people that do want to spend money, whether that's something that is up to date, whether it's something that is, dare I say, more trendy or more fashionable or relevant, I don't know. A lot of, because we work certainly here in big colors, I'd say historically have never really been at the behest of colors and tastes and fashions and change in color, because everybody has such a diverse relationship with color. Adie's favorite is purple, mine is orange, and that kind of stuff. So great, we kind of deal with those tastes. However, it doesn't stop fashion houses from bringing spring collections and winter collections out. It doesn't stop the most talented design companies and colorists around the globe from figuring out what needs to be the next big thing. And as you said, Paula, we shouldn't jump on trends. It's the wrong thing to do. However, if we are aware and use the internet and use the media and use all the stuff that we're being bashed with as a means to learn and to understand and to have a basic grasp of what the world is up to in terms of this, I think that's a really big help. And I'll give you another example, if I may, because we're both petrol heads, gas monkeys, call us what you want. There's a big trend with a particular colour in Porsche circles at the moment. So Porsche have got lots of different colours that they do, and one of them is called oak green metallic. And for whatever reason, I keep seeing oak green metallic cars coming up on timelines in the media. When you see Porsche test cars on YouTube, because I like watching YouTube channel with these cars, they always tend to be these oak green metallic or a green metallic colour. Well, I don't understand why. I don't like oak green metallic. It's not my thing. I'd never own anything, but for some reason, these tend to be popping up all over the place. So I'm just aware of that. All right. And I might think to myself, well, we might have a conversation one day and say, is metallic green a big thing at the moment? Should we try a metallic green and maybe weave that into something? What would it look like? Do I need to experiment? Could we find a nice metallic green? I know we've used them in the past, but you know, it's just not personally a color I particularly like. But understanding that I, as a human being, am bombarded with metallic green at the moment. Obviously, now I've said it, my phone's sat next to me. I'm going to get bombarded even more.
Absolutely.
Is that a thing? And you're right to put it in your head. It's either a yes or a no. Do I have a go with it or do I just dismiss it? But knowing and having that information is the important thing.
It makes all the difference in that awareness. You can make it an informed choice as to whether you run with a trend or a type of work or type of color for a while or not. It definitely does. It does make a difference. When it comes to selling art, so not just the making of it and being aware of what people are buying, but it's also in how you present yourself online. So part of that being aware of what people are buying and what kinds of people are buying is how you present to them so that they recognize that you are a person to buy from. So that comes down to, what does your website look like? What does your social media look like? Are you speaking to those people with this art that you've researched to try to get them to be aware and buy from you? And I think a lot of artists, most artists I've seen, have missed the mark entirely when it comes to their websites, because they're thinking their website is a presentation of them, and it's not. It is entirely 100% about the buyer, about the buyer's comfort, about the buyer's perception of who the artist is, about the buyer's perception of whether it's safe to buy from this artist or not, about the buyer's perception of what's available to purchase. And the minute an artist understands that how they present is not a reflection of the artist, but of the buyer, that should immediately change how they present and how they show up. And you guys do that with your website. You've done it right from the get-go. I mean, it's been refined over the years. But it's really clear that that's how your website is built. It isn't celebrate Ed and 80 who've done amazing things. No, it's come here and check out the cool shit that you will love.
Yeah. One of the things that we tend to do and have done in the past quite a lot is that if Ed does some sort of adjustments to the website and things like that, and then what he'll do is he'll say, look, just pop over, have a look at the website and see what you think. And I'll have a look at it and I'll get my wife to have a look as well, just to see how we see it according to a buyer. Because of course Ed's got it's just a word to use, is he's got a bias as to what goes onto that website. So he will naturally be biased a certain way, whereas you try to look from the outside in, and that's how it should be. Like you say, it's not about you're thinking, how's the customer? The customer wants to find this as easy as possible, and it wants to be the most pleasant experience for them. And it's not necessarily what you, the artist, think is that experience, so to say. And I think that one of the things, if you do any kind of commissions, that is a very, very big thing that should be on the website, is about commissions. Because what you're actually doing is you're saying to your ideal client, well, what is it you want? Tell me what you want, and I will therefore then see if I can do that for you. We have had it with a client who wanted Paul Smith colours. Now, obviously, the designer, Paul Smith, and they're more softer colours, aren't they? Palette colours, softer palette.
Yeah, I mean, they're not totally in your face, but they're kind of off primaries,
yeah,
so to speak.
But they came to us and said, can you do? And we said, well, let's have a look. We found the RALs and the BS codes and everything else like that. And we did those sort of softer Pantone, for want of a better word, because that's what the client wanted. It's not like we said, nope, don't do that. No, we don't touch that. No. It was, well, we'll do a quick look into it. Well, yes, yeah, we can do that, and we'll get that sorted. And they were happy as Larry with what we did. So that's part of that commission thing where it's that client coming and saying, look, I see what you do, but do you do? And you kind of go, well, yeah, I can do that. But, I know that some artists, they don't do commissions in any way, shape or form, but I would strongly suggest that most artists have at least something to try and do that for a client. Because a commission is basically, they're telling you they want this, this, and this. If you can't do it, and we have had it before where somebody's come and said some impossible stuff, and we're like, I'm really sorry, but we're not going to be able to do that. I think it's, when they come and say, can you do a portrait of my 3 grandchildren sitting on a horse in Hyde Park? And we're like, well, I'm really sorry, but that's not quite what we do, that sort of thing. But if you have that commission side of things and you can do that for clients, it's great to have that because you'll get their kind of what they'd like. They're going to hone in. They're going to say, well, I see you're an abstract artist. And I really love what you do. But what I haven't seen is there's a particular baby blue that I really like and I want it from left to right and so on and so forth. It's not like Ed's going to go, nope, I don't use baby blue. Sorry, no. Yeah, I mean, green is least particular favorite color, but it's not like we've ever said to a client, I'm sorry, but you'll never see green ever because we don't do it. You accommodate.
I've had to get olive green out. So
Yeah.
as if green isn't the worst ever, olive green, I'm sorry, just no. But just please kill me now.
Realistically,
I've used it, haven't I?
no, but realistically, what came out with that olive green was pretty spectacular.
It's really good.
So, the key to this is you might not like that color, but the style in which you do it, you might go, I really like that. So it's not like you're, breaking the code of the art world by saying, oh, well, I'm doing something I don't want to do, or make it something that, it might not be about a particular aspect of it, but the rest of it you enjoy doing. So therefore, you've got to balance it out really, I think.
Yeah. I once had a commission where I had to match the colors to the client's couch. So that was fun. And she gave me some of the paint she used on her wall, which matched the couch. And I mixed the house paint in with my acrylics and made the portraits of her kids. And they matched the couch. But you have to sometimes you have to do what the client wants, but within reason, as you had said, Adi. I think it's important too, when we list things on our websites for our clients, that we list out everything to manage their expectations and try to answer their questions straight up. So on your commission page, which I haven't looked at in a long time, so forgive me if you've done this or haven't done this, but you would say, like, here's the process. Contact us, we'll talk, we'll have meetings, we will go over colors and whatever. And if we aren't doing something, we won't do it. And otherwise, what you see, my style, is what you expect. So many artists refuse to do commissions because they're worried about letting a client down. I made most of my money on commissions, and the rest of it on prints and some original sales as an artist, because there's people want what they want, but they just don't have the skills or the desire to develop those skills to do those commissions. So if you're very clear on your art style, and you're very clear on what you do, and they come to you and they know what to expect. I always pointed at my Instagram and said, hey, this is what I'm going to do as portraits. They are going to be orange and neon pink and purple and whatever. If you were happy with that, that's what you're going to get. Let's go. Right? That's all you have to do to manage a client's expectation, is that clear communication. And having that on your website as well, the process, maybe not a novel length, but certainly a couple of steps and an understanding, and maybe a list of what you won't do. Like, I still do portraits, but I will not do political figures or controversial figures or whatever, right? I have an ethical line that I will draw in the sand. I'm very clear about that. When I talk to people about commissions, I ask them who they want to have done, and then we'll go from there. I've reserved the right. So you have control. Just because somebody asks you to do something and waves money at you doesn't mean they're the only client in the world. And it doesn't mean that you have to take them. Because we all know that when we take commissions that don't work for us, we end up spending more time, everybody leaves unhappy, and the money wasn't worth it. So when we say to match what people are buying, we're not saying change completely. We are saying being aware and looking at the market you're aiming for and making sure that your website and your communication speaks to that market as well.
Yeah.
That's critical.
Yeah, I mean, it also can quite interestingly show you trends as well. So that if you get, a lot of clients coming in commission wise, and they all seem to be sort of asking for, like Ed said, a certain color. It may be that they all want that. What was it called? Forest metallic green.
Oak metallic
Oak
green.
metallic green. Suddenly, you're getting a lot of clients asking for oak metallic green. You think, oh, hang on a minute, what's going on here? And of course, it's this, like you say, it's this sort of trend side of things. But if it's a commission, well, there's no reason why not, do that and continue to do that if that's what the clients are asking for. I think also it can help. The more commissions you do, the easier it gets, the better it gets, and you can polish it very nicely then. And sort of hone it to exactly how you want. Like you said, you don't do political figures. And, it is funny that somebody would look at our website and say, do you do portraits on the beach? And no, but thanks anyway. But the key to it is talking to any client, whether it's a yes or a no to them, will give you more knowledge as to, what you should be doing, or maybe something you can tweak a little bit. So I always think it's very handy to have that kind of knowledge.
It's all data and paying attention
Yeah.
to what people are asking
Yeah.
you, paying attention to what art buyers might be looking for. I typically send people to look at Etsy. Etsy historically has been really great to see what people are buying because you can see what has sold. But Etsy is now full of AI art and resellers and things like that. So it's a little bit less useful for data. But it is always worth going to shows in terms of art fairs to see what is selling. So you're not going as a buyer, you're going as somebody collecting data. It's worth looking at other information. So if you're aiming for somebody who, I don't know, runs a corporation and you're able to see behind the scenes, there's a lot of home shows and stuff that television shows or Netflix shows or whatever that show what people have in their houses. You could pay attention to what the art is in there as well, what they are hanging. You can look at your competition. So I firmly believe that artists are colleagues, not competition. A person who's gonna commission Ed probably won't commission me unless they want a portrait, right? We're not competition at all. If Ed and somebody else who does similar expressive abstract work are looking at clients, again, it's not gonna be because, they're competition. It's gonna be they prefer Ed's style over the other style or vice versa. It's not gonna be we have to battle it out to get the one and only client that is in existence. So looking at your competition in the market that you're at. So let's say that you are selling to dog breeders who have 4-bedroom houses, right? That's a very specific market. Or left-handed goat herders who have castles, whatever. You're going to look at the people who are selling to them. You're going to look at the people who are selling to them. You're going to look at what they're buying. You're going to look at what shows they show up at. You're going to go to even the trade shows, potentially, if you're ambitious enough. You'll go to the trade shows as well and see what they're looking at, figure out what the trends are, and then pay attention to what they're paying attention to and adjust your art accordingly. It's understanding who your buyer is, who your market is, and then adjusting according to the data you collect, because it's not personal, to make your art fit what they want. Or make that spork that AD described earlier, where you adjust a little bit but still keep your true art soul.
I'll tell you what I was thinking about as well is if you look through, art history and everything else like that, you will find that they had certain periods, the blue period, so on and so forth. So and I'm sure if you look back through history, you'll see these were sort of on topic, trends that were happening across, and that even in the past they would be sort of trends, and they would be with that trend. And it was the same with poetry. There were points where poetry became into certain genres throughout the years. So I think that, there's nothing wrong with going, okay, don't be stuck, that you can move forward, utilize things. And like you were saying about AI and everything else now, I don't think you can get away from it. If you punch something now into Google and you say, I'm looking for X, Y, and Z, you're going to get that thinking comes up, and AI is going to start giving you, that's great. It might sort of get you somewhere to the answer you want, but take it with a pinch of salt. Again, like we said, and do a little bit more research. Don't just take that first sentence and say, right, that must be the gospel, you know, to see and go, and you might start to say, oh, this is trending. That metallic forest green is trending. That's quite interesting, and go from there. Oh, I noticed that certain sculptors are doing it in glass instead of clay, and that seems to be more relevant at the moment. Is that more people are selling glass? So perhaps I should be doing my sculptures with glass instead of clay. It's that kind of thing. You're not suddenly disowning what you do. You're saying what I should do is use a different material, because it seems to be at the moment the people that are selling it are doing it in this material. So therefore, I should go with the times a little bit and use that material. Doesn't mean to say that down the road in 2 years' time, you're going to go back to using another material, because that's what's relevant.
Yeah, the thing is, for anybody who's listening going, "Well, what the heck? I'm not switching materials." Then switch your audience. Find the audience that is buying what you're making.
Yeah.
Right? And it's not just putting it out there in what we typically in marketing call spray and pray, because you need to be very, very focused in who your ideal client is and or collector and where they are, and go find them and make them notice you. Right? Do the things that will get you in front of the right people. So behind the scenes, the three of us at 80 and I have had talks about changing who we are speaking to in the Swarez Art Academy. And that is normal. In every business I've been in, we start with one type of person we're aiming for, and you adjust as you go. It's the same for artists. I started out because I was doing pop culture art. So I was like, okay, 35-year-old male gamer, definitely my guy. And I discovered I didn't want to sell to them. Especially at that point, that was when Gamergate and all the controversies were happening. I didn't want to be anywhere near that. I adjusted my ideal collector for my art to be a 40-something-year-old woman and in a certain fandoms and whatever, and bang, I was selling hand over fist. Adjusting who you're speaking to and being in the spaces where they are at and understanding what they're yearning for and paying money for, and understanding that your website and your social media needs to speak to them, not about you, but about them, and their needs and wants, can change everything. And it's that little tweak that matters. So if you're listening going, "Well, I'm not changing my art." Well, guess what? You'll have to do some adjustments, but maybe those adjustments are in where you're showing up and how you're showing up. Maybe that's what you need to do. But either way, it's paying attention to the market and paying attention to what's selling and not selling. I worked as a book editor for a while, and I've seen a lot of books across genres. And the consistent thing I came across were people who are like, I'm going to write children's books. They're easy, they're 1,000 words at max, and children are stupid. They'll buy anything, right? It's not the children that are buying, it's the parents and grandparents and teachers and whatever. Almost every book I was handed was rhyming, and these sweet little books about elves in a forest and whatever. That shit, that was popular in the 70s and 80s. These are all the writers that are in their 40s and 50s. They're in my age range in their 50s, and looking back at their childhood nostalgia. Kids nowadays don't care. They don't want the rhyming. Everybody has different accents and different ways of speaking the language. And so being stuck in that is an immediate no. I would turn people away. Sorry, I'm not editing your book. Change it from rhyming and we'll talk, and change the subject a little bit. It's the same thing with art. We end up with these trends of, okay, I like this growing up, or I saw this in houses, and it's no longer relevant. Paying attention to what's relevant now makes all the difference.
Yeah.
And over and above that, if you were making modernist sculpture, let's say you were doing, I like Barbara Hepworth and what she did, incredible with these soft shapes and arcs and circles with lines of stuff going, just mind blowing. Henry Moore's another one with the very soft, huge shapes, fantastic, but certainly not anything that you necessarily recognize as a thing. It's just a beautiful shape. But if I was doing that kind of thing, or doing, I don't know, star shapes or dodecahedrons or something wild and bizarre, I wouldn't go to a town and country fair and exhibit them, because it's the wrong audience. Everybody there wants hares standing up on their hind legs, or deer, or owls in trees, or something like that, which is more akin to what that market is. It might be a really simplistic way to view it, but I think that underlines what you've both just said, because then it's not that you've then got to change what you're doing, but you're in the wrong space trying to attract the wrong people. You don't have to start, well, I can't craft a picture of a rabbit in clay to make it into a bronze. I can't do that. No, we're not asking you to. But going to a town and country fair twice a year and wondering why you don't sell anything is the reason why you're not selling anything. But you don't have to change what you're doing. You just have to go after the modernist people that want clean, smart shapes. So pick up an interiors magazine and see what's trending through there. You know, how are interiors going? Where are architects moving these days? Do I need to go to a trade show for architecture, or do I need to do this or do that? That's where modernists will hang out, but they won't hang out at a town or country fair. That's the point I was going to make.
Yeah, it may be even to be able to find where things have sold before. I've done that before, to have a look for, you know, where things have sold before and who they've sold to. And it's like, right, okay, it's that, you know, and find that market that way by seeing what sold previously and where and to who, what demographic of people, what country even, and go, right, now I know that maybe if I steer towards that area, that's where I might find my target audience.
Yeah, and being aware of specific regions within countries as well is important. A lot of the artists that we work with sell from the UK to the US. And so with things obviously changing, they've had to pivot and do more research and pay attention
Yeah.
to closer to home. And also to keep their US clients, educate them on the tariffs and how, as of this recording, art is still tariff free shipping to the US as long as you document it appropriately. So these are critical things to be aware of. But paying attention is important. If you are running a business, you have to have something that people will want to buy. And if they're going to want to buy it, you have to be in the right place with the right stuff at the right price. So the next thing we should talk about is also pricing. We're not talking about how to price your art in this podcast. That's something that we teach. You could pay us. We'll give you every detail possible. But in terms of pricing your art, you can't walk into a space. So let's pick helicopter enthusiasts. They buy helicopters. They spend £5 million on helicopters. They go to helicopter trade shows. If you are going to do helicopter art, whether it's sculptures, figurines, paintings, whatever, you're not going to walk in there and go, they'll buy it because I'm only £50 a pop, because they won't. If they're dropping millions of pounds on a helicopter, they would be embarrassed to spend £50 on a piece of art. You have to understand your market and price to what they feel is appropriate. Because if something is too cheap, they won't touch it. They'll think, what's wrong with it? This is not for me. It's not worthy of my attention. So pricing appropriately is also quite critical. I got caught up in the Hermes bags on TikTok, and it's a really fascinating market because people will drop 22 to 30 to 40,000 pounds on a freaking bag. And I look at that and go, well, I hope it's good quality. I have no idea because I wouldn't spend that. But it's fascinating to watch that they don't blink to spend that. If Hermes priced their bags at 100 pounds, none of those people would buy them. They buy them for the exclusivity. They buy them for the prestige of owning one. When you carry one on your arm and it's a legitimate, not a knockoff, the people who know. And you're signaling that you fit in that group. So you show up at your helicopter trade show with your 10,000 pound art. It's a little bit more realistic for somebody to want to buy it because it adds to the exclusivity. It adds to the mindset of the people who are putting down millions of pounds and allows them to feel like they've bought something that maybe nobody else has. And you're making an absolute killing with that.
Yeah, really, really good point. Price positioning. Yeah. I nothing to add to what you just said, Paula, but I think there are a number of aspects which, and that's one of them, you don't necessarily consider when you sit back a little bit in your chair and think about, where am I positioning myself, who to, where is the money rolling in from, where is my market? But even identifying that, what other things do you have to modify in order to be successful in repositioning yourself or retargeting a certain area? And pricing is key, absolutely key. And as you were mentioning it there, I thought, yeah, I know. I bet I know the figure you're about to say. And you said it was 10 grand. And It is so right, because so much of this is about perception. And unfortunately, it's smoke and mirrors much of the time, because your $500 painting might, if you put a $10,000 price tag on, in actual fact, won't look any different. It is about the perception of the people looking at it. And it's a really fascinating human subject, this thing about let's take the Hermes bag. Now, forgive me, I know what the brand is, but I have no idea past that. I just know it's expensive and people go absolutely crazy.
I touched a Hermes bag.
Have you?
Yeah. It's very nice.
But is it worth that money?
But at the end of the day, I look at what I do, or what I did when I walked in, and I went, "Ooh, that's very nice." And I saw I can't remember what it was, 8,000 price tag on it. I think it was 8,000 euros. I think it was something like that. But all I thought to myself was, that's some really nice heavy cotton stitching. That's some leather, some colouring, and a badge. So you could get all of those materials. You could probably take it to somebody, who made bags or has made bags, and say, "Can you hand make me this if I give you all these materials?" And they probably could, and make it as good as, if not better than, this Hermes bag that cost 8,000, and it would have cost maybe 1,000. But part of it as well is that going and buying it in that shop is the bravado of that. You go in there in a nice suit wearing a Rolex, and you go, "I'm going to buy this for my wife." And it's like the experience of it all as well. And that can be part of it. And that builds you to that price point. It is that, getting to that. And like you said, walking out, and especially, as a man, you walking out with that bag, and a couple will walk past, and the wife will look at her husband and go, "Why aren't you doing that for me?" And it's, do you know what I mean? Because they know. And so, like I say, all of that comes with it, it's the whole package, isn't it?
Such a great word, experience.
Yeah, an
So-
experience, yeah.
And we're all nodding. I know you can't see that because it's not on video.
Hang on, everybody nod quietly.
There you are, we're all nodding.
Yeah.
Experience. Go right back to square one. What are you actually selling somebody when they buy a piece of work from you? You are selling them a complete experience.
Yeah.
It's even more complete if it's a commissioned piece, because you've worked with someone on an individual basis to deliver something to them that is uniquely theirs. Now, all of you, what you do is uniquely yours, but a commission is even more so. But at all points, from the second you walk into your studio to the moment somebody has just done a bank transfer and shook your hand, it's all about experience. The Hermes bag at £1,000 custom made would probably look better and be far more unique than an Hermes one, or an Hermes bag, or a Fendi, or whoever you want to buy. It is all about buying into an experience. So as creative people, we absolutely must build an entire experience around the core of what we do, which is make great stuff that people want to own. If the experience is poor, if it isn't engaging, if it hasn't captured somebody from the second they have contact with you, social media, website, phone call, trade show, art fair, whatever that may be, however they first make that point of contact, what you have done is start their experience off. It could be 2 years. We've had that, haven't we? Yeah. Where it's been then 2 years before someone's got in touch. I first picked up a magazine and I saw you guys in there, and well, we've done our house now, and I don't really know what I'm doing, but yeah, I kind of like your stuff. Everything that you say and do, and that they say and do in return, is all part of their own unique and individual experience. And the end result of that is them paying you money for something that they're going to own for a lifetime. And if you can't understand that or appreciate that, it's going to make life a lot more difficult. So every single letter you write and every paragraph on your website is important. The font that you use is important. The background you put on whatever it is important. How you post on social media is important. How you take a photograph of something is important. Now, I'm not telling you there's a right or wrong way of doing anything. That's not the point. The point is just consider that every single time you dive into your business or your practice and do something, you're affecting the experience for anybody who comes to view it, whether they buy or not. It is all about that experience. So how you make somebody feel is entirely down to every single action of yours from the moment you wake up in the morning till the moment you go to bed. So the ability to attract an audience, wherever you position yourself and wherever you send that information out into the world, so much of that is dependent on how they interact back with you. And that is about their experience. So whether you're a Hermes bag level or you're whatever level you're at, it's such an important thing, is to give everybody the unique experience of you.
That actually was a word also that I focused on too, experience, because you guys wrap up the experience beautifully with your clients from start to finish. Not only from your website, but the care that you give them, the Photoshop renderings, the PDFs that you send them, the phone calls, the choice of pick this painting or that painting, because we made 2 for you to pick from, is really incredible. But beyond that, what the clients don't see, but I think they understand, is the quality of the canvas that you choose to work on, the quality of the stretcher bars. We talked about that before we hit record because I have a pet peeve about stretcher bars right now. In Canada, if you buy pre-made or pre-stretched canvases, which I can stretch canvas, but I really, really hate doing it. I wish I had my own 80 here. But I hate doing it, which means that if you go to the stores, a lot of them are pine, which is garbage for stretcher bars. Or if they're the correct wood, they aren't kilned properly, so they warp over time. And so it's really frustrating. So when clients come to you, they know that they are getting quality material. You know your paint inside and out, even if the client doesn't, and most of them won't. But they know you know. They know that the material they're getting the painting put on is high quality. They know the stretcher bars are high quality and stored appropriately, and everything is done. There was a video you guys just put on social media a couple of days ago of heating up, I think, the canvas as it was being stretched. Yeah, I saw that. I was like, "Oh, so cool." I'm a nerd when it comes to stuff like that. But yeah, it's that is part of the experience as well, taking care of the details. I've bought art from people. I don't buy a lot of art because I come from a family of artists, and, so I've inherited a lot of art, and my kids have made art, and I've made a buttload of art. But when I do, I notice the experience I get from the artists. One artist made the whole experience from start to finish incredible, like constant communication, photographs, little funny videos, and everything else. And when I got the piece, it was gift wrapped. So not only set properly, but when I opened the box, it was wrapped like a present, which has stuck with me for 15 years since I bought that piece. The whole experience was so positive. I immediately turned around and bought another piece because who doesn't want a gift wrapped, beautifully done art piece, right? Like
Yeah.
that was really powerful. Paying attention to how your customer feels is really critical. I just finished reading a book called, and a lot of people have heard of this, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. There's a new version out in 2022. The audiobook is really fantastic. But to sum it up, it's don't argue with people, make other people feel good in the moment, and pay attention to how you make other people feel. Pay attention to what their needs are and understand that everybody approaches every interaction with the idea from their point of view. So make them have that good experience. And as somebody who sells work and sells their creative work, that should be forefront. If your clients come back again and again to buy pieces, maybe it'll take them a couple of years, but you guys have had repeat clients and I've had repeat clients. It's because that experience made them feel like they were cared for, seen and heard, and that they know that when they spend money with any of us, it's safe, respected, and they get value.
Yeah, it's we've strived to try and make the experience as good as possible from the beginning. Don't get me wrong, we've made mistakes. I mean, early on with frames and things like that, we found that suddenly the canvas was starting to sag, and we needed to figure out how to make that better. So finding the bars that we found where you can continually tension them, they're floating frame, was one of the greatest things. And finding that, and just recently, it's been a real headache for us to actually get those bars still. But we are so committed to having those for our clients that we've spent weeks and weeks trying to sort it out. which hopefully we have now. But at one point we were thinking we've lost them forever. But again, it's because that's one of the things, that attention to detail for us is something, that we have to have. It's the same where we've been working with different experiments on different paints, different chemicals, so on and so forth. And it's ridiculously expensive to do. But again, it comes down to that we want the best that we can, so that we are unique in what we do in everything from start to finish can be, an experience never to forget, so to say. We've had repeat clients who've said it's even better this time round, that kind of thing. At the moment, we've got a commission where the client is excited every time we send a video.
I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah. But initially, and here's the thing, and I've seen this a lot with people, it may be that they haven't contacted you as an artist, creative, because you're not putting yourself forward as somebody approachable, or that you don't appear to be somebody that they could phone up and ask questions about. Because let's face it, if you're spending a few £1,000s with somebody, you want to know what you're getting for your money. And you've got to be open to answering those questions, whether it be via video chat, email, or whatever. You've got to make sure that you are making that client feel comfortable. And once you start that process, and then they start to see how this experience is going, and it gets more and more enjoyable for him, especially for our client at the moment. I won't mention the name, but he is like, he did say, didn't he? I cannot wait, wasn't it? He said, I cannot wait.
He replied last night. Did you want me to give you this live on air as an because he did reply this. Just haven't told you yet. So we're doing a replica of Jackson Pollock's Blue Poles, which is some of that is out on social. He's fine with it being on social. So yesterday we're on session 8 or 9, because it can take about 35, 40 sessions to do. I mean, this is big ticket, big painting, but commissioning something like that is unusual in itself anyway. That's number one. Number two, we agree the money and he sends a deposit over, but at that point he hasn't got anything. He's just sent 2 random guys in the UK a chunk of money. So from his point of view, looping back to what Adi said about trying to look at it from the customer's point of view, he might be thinking, I don't know what to expect. Okay, but we're going to blow your mind, pal. Oh yeah. So ever since we started sketching it out, I've been sending him updates with the proviso. If you'd rather see it when it's all done, just tell me and I'll stop. Oh no, I like to see what's going on. So I've got it. So let's not lose this momentum. So there'd been about a week, 10 days, I think, hadn't there, when we hadn't done much because we were sourcing some other paint and this and the other. So done a couple of sessions last few days and finally got to the point yesterday of applying cream and white. And Adrian and I had to hang the canvases up, just hold them in our hands vertically, because I don't know if you've seen the stuff, everything's painted on the floor here, Swarez. But this we had to pull up and hang vertically so that the drips of the paint would start dripping down. Gravity, we need gravity to take them down towards the floor, because in the original Blue Poles, which is Jackson Pollock, there are a lot of underlying layers which have vertical drips in them. We know that because we've studied it long enough.
Yeah.
So this was the let's get the drips on phase. Put them back on the table. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Happy with that. I do a 3.5-minute video and I sent it to the client who's overseas. This is his reply. I haven't told Adi yet, so he'll know. Yeah, just haven't got onto it yet. Hey man, I'm so appreciative of these updates. It's so fascinating to hear and watch, and I'm blown away how accomplished you are as an artist. I'm not saying this for my own ego. This is as true as I'm reading.
Hang on.
Yeah. Let me get off my pedestal. I'm probably an easy one to impress, but still, I'd wager good money even a very experienced artist would struggle to recreate and think in the layering that you do. I also feel I benefit a lot from your experience 10 years ago. Context, we did one of these 10 years ago. It's the last time we attempted a Blue Poles replica. I'm so happy I chose a Blue Poles project. So if you do listen to this podcast again at minute 50 or whatever it is, there are so many key actual words in there, and these are somebody else's words, not mine. All I did was send a video and explain what I was doing. Things like blown away, appreciative, impress, benefit, happy. What other kind of words do you want a client to use at the end of the day? That's 5:45 at night. Now he's, I think, an hour or maybe even 2 hours ahead. Maybe he's definitely an hour ahead.
Yeah.
So it's 7 o'clock at night. Probably had a long day at work, and he's sat down, seen this on his WhatsApp, and thought this is the thing ever. So managing somebody's expectations is a good thing, but actually going over them and above them by really immersing somebody in something, I think for us, for him anyway, is a brilliant thing.
Yeah.
Now, he's really responsive to that. And it could be that some clients aren't. They just want to see it at the end. They're not that bothered, just stick me the red and black thing on the wall and I'll be happy. But at least we tested with him to see if this was what he liked. He's liking it. So at every single point now that we've done a session, I will do a video or some photos and throw them over to him. There you go. This is today's session. This is orange and yellow that's gone on. We've concentrated on the upper areas because the original has it in the upper things. But don't worry if it looks too much because it's going to get covered with silver. Da, 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 da. And all this level of attention, that's what this is. Attention is enhancing his experience so that when he sees one of the two originals, because I'm painting two side by side, subtly different. When he's,
as Paula
said, yeah. Because I mean, we can.
Yeah, it does come down to that initially, obviously, it started with an email, but we said to him, look, why don't we just jump on a Zoom call or face.
We've done several now.
Yeah.
At the weekends, we come in on the weekend and do Zooms with him.
Yeah, and it's, as him as a client, it's made him feel a little bit more comfortable and relaxed. And the key to it is when he says, I'm thinking about maybe doing something like a polyp. We said, well, no problem. Number one, we've got loads and loads of photographs from the first that were done that we can show you, close-ups, things like that. Secondly, we've got one or two bits and pieces around here which we can show you via video and things like that. First of all, I'm sure that what goes through some clients' heads is, are they actually real? Because let's face it, in this day and age, you can go to a website, it looks fantastic and everything else like that. You pop your card in and then suddenly, boom, oh, that's gone somewhere. So the one great thing about it is that if you can get on a Zoom call or FaceTime or something like that with the client, and they can actually see that you're real, also that what you've done previously for other people, if you have that in a portfolio or whether it's on your website, wherever it be, and you can say, yeah, I've got a few photos I can show you. This is the kind of thing I've done before, so on and so forth. All of that makes your client feel comfortable. Now, you roll back, I'm sure, I don't know, I'm probably guessing, but I don't think Jackson Pollock had very many people actually coming around when he was halfway through something to go, I'd like to have a look at that, please. But these days, that is a thing that can be done. It's very, very easy to just, Zoom call or FaceTime somebody, send them a video. It's very, very easy to do these days. And it makes your client feel more comfortable. And the more comfortable you can make them feel, the better the experience for them, the more they're likely to buy, and the more they're likely to buy again.
100% right. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So this comes back to adapting to the needs of the market, the needs of your client, and paying attention to the experience. As we do wrap this podcast episode up, I think we've covered some really important things. Paying attention to the data of what is selling right now, not what we would like to be selling. Paying attention to who is doing the buying and what they are looking for. So if you want to stay working in whatever material or with whatever subject, go find those people. Don't show up in the wrong places and then say nobody's buying art, which is what most artists typically do. Don't do the spray and pray method. Yes, it's important to have social media because it creates that sense of, okay, this is a real person. They have a history of creating work. I can start trusting them. And paying attention, not necessarily to trends that come and go, that pop up and down, but the trends that are longer term, the 2 and 3 year trends. So the metallic green that Ed hates that may show up in one of his pieces, like paying attention to if a buyer comes to you and says, actually, I want everything in green, you can decide whether to do it or not, but that is a piece of data that you pay attention to. And the most importantly, understand that everything you put out, from your website to your art, to how your commissions are handled, needs to be done from the perspective of your ideal collectors.
Yeah.
If your ideal collector is buying helicopters, for 10 or 20 million pounds, then you need to make sure that your every point of contact reflects the mindset of somebody. To 10 or 20 million pounds is sandwich money, money they can spend without having a second thought, and it doesn't affect their ability to pay their bills. So understanding who they are and how they think and what they are looking for is really critical, and pricing appropriately as the final key. So anything to add before we wrap this up? No?
Oh, we're nodding our heads. It's a podcast. We were actually nodding our heads.
1, 2, 3.
There you go. Did you get that?
Oh my god. Yeah, okay, so Ed and Adi shaking their heads because that's what we have to do in an audio podcast. But
I'm so used to being on video. That's the trouble.
That's it. No shaking, Lee.
yeah, I might just put that on our social media. I think this is a really good topic to talk about. It goes hand in hand with how to sell art in a world that feels very unstable and it feels more and more challenging, which was 2 episodes ago when we talked about how the world has changed. So it is critical to take a look at what's going on right now, understand, and adapt. As artists, we can. We can. So when that person is walking around with their soup and they're looking for a spoon and you can offer them a spork, then you have done them an absolute favor because you've been creative and you've given them what they think they need, but maybe something a little bit better and more useful. So it's all good. Yeah. Art is important to the human experience. Art reminds us of who we are, who we want to be, and where we are going. Art allows us to imagine. So even people who can't create art can look at art and have that experience. And it reminds us that there are good things going on in a very challenging time. The beauty of being part of the human race is that diversity of experience. And as artists, we can manage and help people get through maybe as better people, which is, I think, a privilege. And
Yeah,
um,
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes,
Yes,
100%.
absolutely. If in doubt, spork it.
There we go. If in doubt, spork it. Yeah, we need to put that on social media. This has been the Three Art Migos with Ed Swarez, Adrian Webb, and Paula Telizyn. Follow us on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Audible, Amazon Podcasts, or your favorite podcast app. New episodes come out every Saturday UK time. If you're lucky enough to be in Eastern time, they come out Friday evening. And we'll catch you in the next episode. Feel free to send comments, questions, and feedback to us, as long as it's nice. If it's not nice, please send it to Adrian. And
Yeah.
we'll see you in the next one.
And I just thought of something else, and now you might have to cut this bit out because I've got my 10-second amnesia going on because I've completely forgotten it again.
Oh, look, somebody else's brain left the room.
It did. Did you see it far off out the door? I did.
Yeah.
It scurried off. Do you know that being Alien where it jumps out of his stomach and then runs down the road, yeah, and down the corridor? That's his brain just gone. Yeah.
There we go. It's hanging out.
It'll take him a while because it's quite a small one. So
It's gone. Yeah.
The moss oak green ate it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's right. Yeah.